So welcome to How to Study Smarter, Not Harder. I'm Lindsey Martin. I'm a part-time tutor. I tutor biology at the Tutoring Center here at Camden County College. So let's get started. First, we're going to look at reading comprehension. So have any of you guys said this before to yourself or out loud to someone else? I dislike reading. I read too fast. I read too slow. After I read, I can't remember what I read, or there's too much textbook material. So here's tip number 1, read with purpose. So don't just read because you have to, because it's in your syllabus that you have to read that chapter. Go into it with a purpose. Either you want to clarify obscure information, you want to get a more detailed explanation about a topic, you would like to answer a specific question that you had, or you want to apply your lecture information to the textbook reading. Tip 2 is understand what you're reading. So if you're unfamiliar with a word, look it up in a glossary. So I have a couple examples. They're going to be biology examples. So if you're reading a nucleus is an organelle, someone asks you what's a nucleus. The definition of a nucleus is not it's an organelle. There's a lot more to it. So you're going to look at the glossary and you're going to see that a nucleus contains genetic information. That's a little bit more now. Now you're going to further apply that glossary term and you're going to search the index. So now you're going to search nucleus. It's going to take you to a page, and now you know that the nucleus is an organelle. You know from the glossary that it contains genetic information, and then when you go to the index, you'll probably get brought to a page that'll talk about how it's very important in cellular reproduction and growth and things like that. So now you know a lot more than just the nucleus is an organelle. And then you're able to relate new terms to old terms using compare and contrast methods. And if you still don't understand a term, try looking at other supplemental information, like other textbooks, videos online, things like that. So tip number 3, identify what is important. Pay attention to pictures, graphs. They're normally there for a purpose to help visually explain things that might be difficult to grasp with just words alone. I'm going to use a statistics example. So an outlier. Does anyone know what that is? No? Okay. So an outlier is a data point that's outside of normal limits of the data range. So that's kind of hard to understand, but if you see a picture and you're going to see a graph with an upward trend and you're going to see all the data points, and then you're going to see one point that's by itself, next time you hear the word outlier, you're going to mentally picture that and you're going to say, oh yeah, it's the one that's randomly by itself. Read the first sentence of every paragraph because it normally establishes the main point. And look for keywords, likewise, in addition, that can relate and compare to a previous topic. So now I'm going to go back to the nucleus. So let's see if we're reading in addition. So if the textbook says, in addition to having a nucleus, eukaryotic cells have other membrane-bound organelles. Okay, so now we're learning a new term, which is eukaryotic cell. So we're going to go back to what we learned before, and we're going to look up eukaryotic cell in the glossary, and then we're going to look up eukaryotic cell in the index. And now we're going to contrast. So prokaryotic cells, on the other hand, do not. So now we know prokaryotic cells, we can relate to nucleus, and we can relate to eukaryotic cells. So the main point is we want to connect new information to old information because it helps you retain it better. And tip 4, read with strategy. And when I tell people this at the tutoring center, they look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. But sometimes it is easier to start backwards. So before reading the chapter, if you see the chapter is about photosynthesis, think of every question you have about photosynthesis that you just think of on your own and write them down. And then follow along and see if your text will answer any of those questions. And then save questions for lecture that were unanswered. So after reading, if you're still confused, save that for your professor to answer. Skim the chapter beforehand and pay attention to headings, subheadings, boldface text, and end of chapter summaries. I know it sounds weird to read the summary before you read, but it gives you an idea of what's important and you kind of have a mental outline in your head. So this allows you to understand the important topics that are discussed. It helps you familiarize yourself with the boldface terms and their definitions, so the text is easier to follow. And then as you read through it, then you can highlight which topics your professor further emphasizes because you know that they're important and they're more likely to be on the quizzes or exams. All right, the classroom. So you all know it's important to show up to class. I don't need to go to class. I'm super smart on my own. I don't need to go. I go to class, but I can't pay attention. I can pay attention in class, but I don't understand what is being taught. I don't understand what my professor is saying. I can't focus. This is a lot of things that I hear. So I think I really only have one tip for this, but that's be active in the classroom. Show up early if possible. Especially try to get a seat in the front to avoid distractions. When you're looking, you guys, all you can see is this. Zach in the back can look at the back of her hair. He's going to start looking out the window, and it's less likely that he's going to pay attention to what's being taught when it's not right directly in front of you. Ask and answer questions to stay alert. Stay active in discussions, even if it's not a part of your grade to participate in discussions. And take notes. Write down everything the professor says. Even if you've read it in your text, she or he might word it a different way. Okay? Time management. I complete assignments the night before they're due. I spend hours cramming the night before an exam. There's too much information to learn in such a short period of time. Learn to prioritize. Don't consume too much time on easy material. That also doesn't mean to just forget about it, but the harder material, a lot of times students will say, it's really hard, I don't have enough time to understand it, I hope it's not on the test. The harder material is what you need to pay more attention to, and trust me, you're going to feel a lot more confident when you go into it knowing the hard stuff. The easy information will follow. Start to learn how long everything takes you to allow yourself enough time. So if you have practice problems, if you have take-home quizzes, try to get an idea of how long they take you so you can better plan your time. Allot yourself extra time because you get behind some days. Some days you just don't feel like doing your work, and that's okay. But the next day, make sure you give yourself that extra time to get everything done. Find time to study during other activities. Recite what you remember while driving. It's okay to talk to yourself, okay? As long as other people in the cars are looking at you, but it's okay. Pretend you're on Bluetooth or something. Ask someone to quiz you while you're doing housework, cooking, waiting for class, waiting for the bus, anything. I know when I was in school, I would have study guides printed out, and I'm waiting for the other class to leave, and I'm like, okay, quiz me. Do what you can when you can. And you never know when you might come across some extra downtime, so be prepared. Always have your flashcards with you, an outline, a textbook. I know some places when you work you can't have stuff, but if on break you want to check your flashcards real quick, anything like that. Stay organized. So try to create a detailed calendar and add everything in your life. Doctor's appointments, I have to pick my child up from dance class, work, classes, exams, quizzes. Find what time you have available to complete assignments and fill those in. And give yourself a stop time, so plan your bedtime so you don't feel inclined to pull an all-nighter, which is important because all-nighters are not good, contrary to popular belief, okay? You're not gonna learn better if you're staying up all night. And if you have more than one assignment to do, prioritize them. You can use 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, but find what's most important to you, what counts the most to you. And then the more time you have to complete an assignment, the more likely you are to push it to the side and procrastinate, especially in English. When you know that you have an essay that's not due for 3 months, you're probably not going to do it until month 3. Tell yourself it's due in 1 month. Get it done, get it out of the way. That's one less thing that's weighing in on your shoulders. And set goals. So break everything into bite-sized pieces that you can accomplish, and you're going to feel way better about accomplishing them. Pace yourself, don't overwhelm yourself. Spend more time on subjects and topics you're less comfortable with. If you're really good at math, but you're not very good at anatomy, spend more time on anatomy. I know it should be obvious, but sometimes people spend more topics on subjects they like, but really try to focus on the ones that you need to focus on more. And reward yourself for reaching your goals to positively reinforce your behavior. So I learned about this in psychology. So when you memorize half of your deck of flashcards, if you like to watch TV, give yourself 15 minutes of TV time. If you like sweets like me, I really like brownies, okay, I'll give myself a brownie. If I did good on my self-quiz, I deserve a brownie. What's going to happen? I'm going to want to do good on all my quizzes because I want a lot of brownies, right? It works. And then test preparation. So now actually getting down to that test. We read, we managed our time. How did we study? I distract myself while studying. I study in my bedroom. I feel as though I study the wrong material. My professor doesn't tell me what to study. I prepare for the exam, but I blank when I take it. So find the right environment, and that's very important. Make sure it sets you up for success. Study in a well-lit area. Do not study in pajamas or in the bedroom. If anyone ever heard of like sleep hygiene, like things like that. When you're relaxed and you're comfortable, you're less likely to like sleeping in the bedroom. Your bedroom should be for sleep, not for studying. So it's going to be hard for your mind to say, pay attention to what you're reading and studying, but I want to go to sleep. Have the proper resources readily available. So when you go and you find your spot, have everything that you could possibly need so you don't have to be distracted or have to leave when you're in the zone. Remove distractions, turn off the TV, put the phone away, okay? And I know a lot of times you do need your phone. You have people that need to contact you. So what I do is I'll put it with me, but not in hand's reach. So I know it's there, I can hear it, but I'm not inclined to go on it and check social media while I'm studying, things like that. Read between the lines. So if your professor is unclear, I know this happens a lot, about what's on the exam, not all professors print out a review guide. Try to crack them, like crack the code. The amount of time they spend on each topic, that's important. If certain material was stressed or repeated during lecture. Some professors, their voice actually changes when they know something's on the exam and they're teaching it. They might get like a higher voice or a lower voice. You just have to learn about your professor. And then you're like, okay, I think that that's on the exam, because they kind of change their voice on that when they're teaching that. And then what topics were present on practice exams and quizzes are like more likely to be on your exam. So if you have this huge chapter, kind of zone in on what was discussed more in lecture. Quiz yourself. This is the most important thing. When I go to the tutoring center, I said, did you quiz yourself first before coming here? Avoid cramming. So I say to quiz yourself right after you read, the time that you've initially read, and when your test will be, when you'll have to recall that information on your own, and then the night before the exam. So self-made quizzes should consist of a variety of different formats: multiple choice, fill in the blank, matching, short answer. Even if you know that your whole test is 100% multiple choice. If you're doing a fill in the blank, quizzing yourself, it's just different, and you're more likely to remember it because you're testing your knowledge in a different way, not A, B, C, D. And then if possible, take practice quizzes in an empty classroom, which is new for a lot of people, but go to the classroom. If it's empty, sit in the seat that you always sit in and practice taking a quiz. So you get in that mindset that you're here and you know it. And then when it's test day and you sit in that seat, and it's just like you're quizzing yourself on your own. And then positive attitude. I know you hear this all the time. Everything I said, there's no right or wrong formula. So if something doesn't work for you, try a different method. Attitude is everything. I hear a lot of, I'll never use this again in real life. This information's useless. This has nothing to do with my major, which I know a lot of you are taking prereqs and you're like, I don't need to know math if I want to do nerd, things like that. But it is more difficult when you go into something saying, I don't want to learn it. So get excited and you should be successful.